Good morning. Hey, Kristen. Try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, good.
So when I logged in, there was a button and it said I could unmute everybody, and I hit that button, but it looks like everybody's still muted. So
Yeah, it said that you unmuted us, but you still couldn't hear me.
oh, that's weird. So maybe I think we just have to raise our hand to talk, and then
Okay.
and then I think that will work unless I'm missing something. So and then Lana, I think you should be able to talk. Is that correct?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yep. Now I have the little mute symbol.
Fantastic.
Good morning, everyone who's there already.
Good morning.
Looks like there's 20 of us on, but there were 64 registered, so we'll hang patient for a few minutes.
Sounds good.
Jess, are you just going to email this to me when we're done then so I can have my other staff watch it?
Yeah, so, well, maybe not today. Once we're done with the presentation, it will be converted into a recording. And then by the end of the week, the recording and then the new link for Dropbox and all the New Year materials will be sent out. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But you'll have plenty of time to train others prior to the October 1st start date.
Okay.
And then, Lana, can you just verify you see the correct screen, correct?
I can see the cover of the PowerPoint.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Jess, while we're waiting, did you get my email yesterday on the menu that I scanned over to you? We kind of edited it.
Yeah, I'm going to send it back to you. There are a couple corrections that we will make.
Okay, perfect. We were trying to make it easier not to have stuff that had to be in a cooler since we don't have one yet. We only have a small fridge.
Okay.
Jessica, the NSOPW system finally is up and working, so I've got a whole bunch of AmeriCorps ones I'll go ahead and send you in a little bit. Just FYI.
I'm not writing. No, go ahead. I am working on exits right now because I know payroll probably do. So I'm working on getting exits due today. So send them my way.
Cool. Well, I'll have one batch that's ready just to continue over, and then I'll have one batch that I'm going to have to send to Cassandra for accompaniment approval.
Perfect. Okay. Do you need payroll by what?
Wait, payroll's not due till the 31st. So I will
Oh.
need it.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'll need it by Thursday. Yep.
Got it. I'm working on it.
And Thursday's my rough day. I have several appointments.
I'll have it all to you. Hopefully, I'll have what I can do today,
Cool.
and then I'll bug those that I still need.
That works.
Got it. For those of you on the line, Lana's birthday is Thursday.
No,
She's
it's
turning
not.
32. She'll be 32 years old.
Happy early
Again.
birthday, Lana.
Thank you. We're not having this one this year, I promise. We're bypassing it. I'm done. I don't want any more.
Bobby, I've allowed you to talk, but I think you still have to unmute yourself. I think
Yeah,
there's
well,
a
I was
mic.
going to say,
Yep.
can you hear me now?
We're
There
good.
you are.
Well, listen, Lana, it's been great. You are awesome. Happy birthday to you. I know
Thank
you're
you.
only like 28 years old, looking great. So,
I love you, Bobby.
Happy
Thank
birthday
you.
to you, dear.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Anytime.
So I see quite a few comments asking what they have to do to sign in. You guys putting your name in chat's perfect. But I've also learned a cool function of Zoom is I can tell when you guys logged in, how long you were on the call, if you were active, and if you were actually present during the presentation. So I can see all of that information on my end. But if you want to add your name to the chat box so Lana and others can see that you were here, that too is okay. Lana, can you read the chat? So can you help keep up with that while I'm doing
Yep.
As long as people send it to all attendees. I see a lot is being sent to just panelists, which is just myself. Lana's not cool
Nope.
enough to be a panelist.
Not me.
So if you want Lana to see the messages, you have to make sure that it goes to all attendees.
She did that on purpose.
I did.
Yeah, I can see the chat, so I can keep up with questions
Perfect.
for you if I see them.
There's still only 34 of us on here, so there are several more that are registered to attend, but I do see that a lot of you are kind of on one computer. So as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we will have this as long as I did it right. Yep. This is being recorded, so we'll be able to send out the presentation afterwards. And we really just hope that you use that as a guiding tool to train others, because you guys are on the call today. We appreciate it. But we know that there are several other staff and volunteers that help with the food program that are not able to make it today. So you are required to train them. And I just hope that you will print off the PowerPoint as the bare minimum and allow it to be a guide for you to make sure the others are trained in the things that are required. Just because I know everybody's attention is finest in the beginning of the webinar, I want to reiterate the fact that this new program year doesn't technically start until October 1st. So I know it can kind of get confusing because we're starting the school year back. We just wrapped up the summer feeding program. And now we're talking about a new year that actually doesn't start until October 1st. So just please keep that in mind. So when we talk about time of serving and things like that, keep in mind that it's October 1st when this new program technically begins. I know, jumping ahead a little bit, Lana sent out the pre-questionnaires. And like I said, I know everybody's attention is greatest in the beginning of any conversation. So just make sure that it's a timely manner that those are sent back to Lana. I don't know how many we're still missing, but we are currently working on submitting our renewal application to the state for approval to start on 10/1. And we are not able to do that until we have everybody's questionnaire. So if you've not sent those in yet, please make sure you send those in as soon as possible.
Yeah, we're still missing a bunch, but I did give everybody until the 31st since it came out kind of late. So, but I definitely would have to have it by the 31st because it's technically due to the state by September 1st.
And Kendra is saying she doesn't have any sound. She should have sound. Okay. No. All right.
You might have to use the phone if you can't get the audio to work.
All right. We will spend the next few minutes reviewing the CACFP meal pattern requirements for each meal. The CACFP meal pattern specifies the components and amounts of food that must be served as part of a reimbursable breakfast, lunch, supper, and snack. If you're anything like me, I enjoy visual aids in helping me learn or understand. On your screen is a great visual aid to see what each meal requires in order to be reimbursable. The USDA has several fun posters that you can print out like this one if you are interested. So with the breakfast meal components, as you'll see, 3 food components are required. Milk is required for every breakfast, as well as a vegetable, fruit, or a combination of fruits and vegetables, and a grain. And if you guys follow our menus, or if you are using vended meals, the menus that are provided, always follow these requirements. I just felt like it was important to remind you of the meal pattern, just in case you guys are making and creating your own menus. It is important to make sure that you're still meeting those meal pattern requirements. Lunch and supper components, all 5 components are required, as you can see. And then most commonly, our clubs are doing snack, which you can select any of the 2 components out of the 5 and serve in any combination that you really wish. So here's where you can kind of get creative. The meal pattern requires to separate the vegetable and fruit components into 2 components at lunch, supper, and snack. This means 1 fruit and 1 vegetable must be served during lunch and supper meals, and a reimbursable snack may consist of a vegetable and a fruit. Vegetables and fruits are still a combined component at breakfast. This means vegetables, fruits, or a combination of both may be served at breakfast to meet the fruit and vegetable component. To help increase the amount of vegetables eaten by youth, a vegetable may be used to meet the entire fruit component for lunch and supper. For example, during lunch, a serving of broccoli and a serving of carrots would be a reimbursable meal. This means a lunch or dinner can include a vegetable and fruit, or 2 vegetables. However, 2 fruits are not allowed. Just as a reminder that milk is required for breakfast, lunch, and dinners. You must have record of enough milk for every meal served. This can include invoices, donation logs, or receipts with a completed expense log. You cannot recycle milk from the share table, and please always be mindful when ordering to ensure you are ordering enough for every meal plan for every possible use. When we are reviewing monthly reports, I think the most common issue that we come across is not enough milk being ordered to serve for all of the meals, breakfast, lunch, or dinners that were claimed. So if you are serving 100 lunches in a month, you have to have proof that you ordered at least 100 milks. In the past, we always allowed milk to be recyclable. So if youth did not consume it, they could put it on the share table, you could put it back in inventory and then reuse it the next day. As you should all be aware of by now, that is not allowed anymore. So it is vital that you always have enough proof, if you will, of enough milk being on site to feed every youth in attendance. As a reminder, if you serve milk by the gallon, 1 gallon milk equals 16 servings. So you can serve 16 kids per gallon of milk. But if you purchase gallons of milk, please make sure that you are serving it in a 10-ounce cup. As you can see on your screen, an 8-ounce serving of milk will not fit into an 8-ounce cup. Some of you have taken advantage of the commercial foods grab-and-go bags that we used early in the summer and carried through our summer program for breakfast grab-and-go bags. For the school year program, we are working with commercial foods and offering 5 options for snack grab-and-go bags. I know there was some confusion early on what was allowed. In the summer, we were allowed to use granola bars and chortles, which were really tasty, but in the school year program, they are considered a dessert grain and are not allowed. So I worked with commercial foods, and we came up with 5 options for grab-and-go bags. That way there is a new option for every day of the week. Those you can see are on your screen. When I send out the updated order guide. I think we've updated it twice now. For the third time when I update it, we will include the 5 new options. So these should be the 5 options for the school year. So this is what you can order. They come in a case of 24. And as you can see on your screen, each snack bag is already packed into a bag, so it is less touch of the items from the staff. So when the youth get them, they are clean items. They have not been handled. So that is really helpful, and we highly recommend the commercial food grab-and-go bags during these times. It's neat because they're shelf-stable, they last a while, and the variety is nice, and it includes a juice every day. So the downfall, I would say, if there was one with commercial food grab-and-go bags, is that it takes about 2 weeks for production. And that's important to note because we are so used to, you have your U.S. Foods order in by noon today, you're going to have a delivery at your door tomorrow. So again, with commercial foods, it's just important to know that it's about a 2-week lead time. So they also only deliver biweekly. So best practice is if you receive your order today, your delivery today, go ahead and place a new order for your next delivery. So it's just that constant rotation of getting an order and placing an order. The 2-week production time is because commercial foods is a lot smaller than U.S. Foods. It is a small family-owned business outside or in Indianapolis. And the neat thing about the grab-and-go bags is they actually take the items to a location in Indianapolis called Noble. And Noble is an organization that helps adults with mental disabilities. And they pay that production to pack the grab bags for our children. So it's kind of neat the cycle it goes through. So the 2-week cycle is kind of, a drag at times, like I said, when we're used to deliveries the next day, but the whole process of what happens with the grab-and-go bags and the effort that's put into them for the kiddos is really kind of neat. And they're a lot more affordable than ordering through U.S. Foods. So the neat thing about commercial foods also is that they have shelf-stable milk. So even if you are not interested in the commercial food, so like I said, we highly recommend if you're serving that you do the commercial food. You can order shelf-stable milk. They have chocolate and white milk. So that's really neat. We were excited to finally find that option for you. So if you're interested, just let me know. That way we can get you set up for delivery and get the production going to get those items to you guys sooner rather than later. Tracy, I see your hand up. And Bobby's. I think I've allowed you both to talk if you have anything to say.
Hey, yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
Let me call you back again. I'm on another call, but I'll call you back. Gotcha, but thank you.
Food program, there is the process of ordering the food and getting the food delivered and creating the menus, and then you guys serving the food and submitting your monthly reports. And this whole process is done in order for us to claim meals. That way we can.
Jessica, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
I wonder why. Okay, I'm gonna move closer to my window and see if that helps at all. So we asked that it's important for clubs to follow the CACFP meal patterns because the basic requirements needed for claiming meals include following those meal patterns and then keeping all necessary dietary prescription forms on hand, which we will go over in just a few moments, and then taking point of service meal counts, maintaining menus and cost documentation, and then maintaining the labels and meal production records. A big part of effectively managing records has to do with maintaining these records and being able to provide access to them when requested. You have all received an unannounced review. How many of you feel that if an unannounced review occurred without you present, that another staff member with your organization would be able to pull all the required review information without any issue? I've completed several site visits in which I was unable to review the necessary paperwork because staff were unsure of where the paperwork was kept or the forms were incomplete. Records should always be maintained for 3 years plus the current fiscal year, and records must be readily available for retrieval and access upon request. Sponsoring organizations like the Alliance are responsible and accountable to the state agency for record maintenance. With that said, if your club does not have records or is unable to retrieve records when requested, who is ultimately responsible? You can review all the reporting requirements in Section 3 on Dropbox. On your screen are the daily and monthly reporting requirements. You will submit your monthly report to Joshua no later than the 5th of every month. Please ensure that you have reviewed the report and it is completed and everything is included. This is important in helping us report to the state on time. Having a second set of eyes review CACFP documentation each month for accuracy. On Dropbox is a copy of the form we use when compiling your report prior to submitting it to the state. Please use this checklist as a guidance for what to include in your monthly report. So the checklist on your screen, as you can see, is everything that has to be compiled together in one report before we submit it to the state and ask for reimbursement. As you can see, most of those items come from the clubs, as noted by the word club highlighted in yellow. There are only 3 things that the Alliance actually provides for those monthly reports. So when you submit your monthly report, it's important, and we ask that you go through this checklist to make sure everything's included. Because if it's not included, when we are submitting or when we are compiling those monthly reports, we have to email you and ask you to submit whatever's missing. So just for best practice, please start using the report checklist just to ensure that everything that is required to be submitted is submitted with the first attempt. Please make sure that you are using the CACFP time log. You should complete a different form for each staff member that helps with service. Only include staff that have at least 1 hour or more. It is important that you include a wage, even if you don't include calculations. A wage is required so we can report how much your time is worth. So oftentimes we'll get your guys' time log submitted to us, but it doesn't have a wage. It just tells us how many hours you worked. When we submit your monthly report, we just have to put the personnel cost. What was the personnel cost for operation for this month? And it's really hard to do that if you guys do not put a calculation on your report. So, or that wage on your report. You don't have to do the math. You can just write in what your time was worth. As long as we have something to time your time to, that is what that form is for.
And
then
just
yep, go ahead.
Just a quick update. A lot of you are salaried, and so we've gotten many questions over the years about I'm salary. I don't have an hourly rate. What I would do, what we recommend, I recommend you ignore that salary staffed location, and I would go ahead and do hourly, even if you are salary. And what you do to figure that out is you just take your salary amount for each paycheck. So, 80 hours. So if you made, $800, you take that $800 and divide it by 80, because that's how many hours would normally be in a salaried employment position. And then that shows you that you would have a $10 an hour wage equivalent. So make sure that's just easier. If you get into this, I'll tell you, a lot of people in my experience have done that bottom part wrong, just because it's confusing and it's hard to do. So I would recommend you do A and just come up with your hourly equivalent amount. And we can help you with that. If you're like, hey, I don't know how to figure this out, just say, hey, this is my salary, what's my hourly rate? And we can get you that if you're struggling with it.
Perfect. And then the other form on your screen is the donation log. This is most common, it seems, when you get milk donated or other supplies such as bread, you ran out of bread, what have you. But a lot of times milk is being donated to sites, and that is really cool. You have to have that donation log because, like I said, anytime you serve milk, you have to have documentation of where that milk came from. So if you have mom that dropped in, and just donated 3 gallons of milk for the program, you have to complete that donation form for that. So there's proof of where those items came from. Additionally, sometimes throughout communities, clubs, get donated random food items. And if that ever happens, just check in with us and see if you plan on using them as a reimbursable item for the food program. Just check in with me and make sure that they are indeed reimbursable. Some things that we get you would think would be reimbursable, but they are indeed not. So it is okay to serve donated items for reimbursement during snack, as long as you have checked in and made sure they are approved items. Again, that is what you would note on the donation log. We know that each club is unique and serving time can be hectic. You should have policies in place that ensure youth are receiving meals in a manner that participation can be tracked at the point of service. You must mark the number off after each youth obtains their snack. The tally marks must match the total meals served to children. At no time should the meals served be higher than the youth in attendance. You must submit your unduplicated monthly attendance and the numbers will be compared. Here's an example of how to fill out a daily snack count form. You'll see numbers 1 through 13 are clearly checked off and identified. I know it seems so silly. However, when you complete forms that look like this and there are just lines through it, the state will haggle us. We will get in trouble for that because that was not done at point of service, and it is clear because you never lifted your pin. So therefore, it is obvious that you did not track meal count at the point of service, and the state will disallow that every time. So we just ask that you're cognitive of the fact that you need to be completing the form at the point of service and have somebody dedicated to do just that. You always need to make sure you circle the meal type. I know sometimes it seems obvious, but if you are a club that serves multiple meals and the meal type is not circled, it slows down our process of going through and trying to figure out which sheet belongs to what meal. So it's important that you make sure the meal served is identifiable in a clear manner. And then it's also important to make sure you're writing the final count and signing and dating. Common errors when completing the daily count form is that you marked off 13 tallies and your total meals served is 12. So we always have to take the lower number or reach out and seek clarification from you. So before you're signing and dating the form, it's important that you make sure that the tally and the final count match and that it is signed and dated. What we don't want to see and what we often see during site visits is when we ask for your last 5 consecutive days, the daily count form is not completed. They have the tallies done, but the total's not filled out, it's not signed, it's not dated. And that will get you in trouble. When we are doing site visits and we see that, we put a corrective plan in place and we address it with you. But if the state walks in and finds that, it is a much larger issue. So it's best practice that when you complete your meal service, you take a moment, you review it, you complete it, you sign it. I mean, it's pretty simple, yet it's something that a lot of us forget to do. And then also what the state does not like to see is when they come in to look at when they come in and do a site visit and they look at your forms and they are already signed and dated for the entire month. Therefore, that signature and date did not come after the fact that you confirmed that your numbers were correct. So something that seems so simple can often be overlooked. And if we follow the correct procedures in filling out that daily count form, I think it will prevent a lot of silly mistakes in the future.
And Jessica, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but another really important thing that we get dinged on is whoever signs this document must have attended the training. So either you've attended today with us or you've attended one within your club, but there has to be, your name signed has to be somewhere on the documentation of training, because if you put Lana on here and I didn't attend the training and I just happened to be filling in because Jessica was gone that day, technically that's a finding and we will get in trouble for that. So anybody that signs off on these daily sheets must have completed the training and there must be documentation.
Hey, Bridget, do you have a question?
Yeah, I went to the CACFP website and downloaded a different form. Do we need this specific meal count form, or can we use the one that I downloaded?
So you have to use the one through the Alliance. If you were doing it under us as a sponsor, these are the forms that we have approved for our program particularly. So it's important that you're using the meal count forms that are provided from us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I need to get that.
Jessica?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, I had a question about a couple of slides back. You said to keep this information. So how long should we keep all of our documents for serving and then all the tallies and time sheets and stuff like that? How many years should we keep that information?
That's 3 years plus the current year. So technically the past 3 and the current.
3 and okay. All right. Thank you. That's Lana. Thank you, Lana.
You're welcome.
Yeah. One, I would say probably the most common finding when reviewing monthly reports are the menus. Menus seem so simple, yet that's where most of our audit issues will come from, in the sense that the menu is used to record the food served to participants, a written record of the food actually served to program participants. So what I've noticed is sometimes we have, the large easy jammers on the menu, and we have not actually had those in stock for the last 4 months. But when clubs are submitting their monthly report, they're actually serving like an Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but the menu still says an easy jammer. I kid you not, the last probably 4 or 5 audits that we've had, that's been a finding every single time. So it's just important that the menu reflects what is actually being served. You will not submit a menu with your monthly report unless you have checked and verified that it is a record of what was actually served. If you serve, if you're supposed to serve a grape juice, but you served tropical punch juice, oh, that's all right, it's still a juice. That has to be made note of. So that menu is what is actually served, not what is scheduled on the menu. And then more importantly with the menu, you have to make sure that it is accurate and detailed. So when you make a substitution or when you create your own menu, it can't just say juice or cereal or vegetables. It has to be detailed, the 100% juice or Cheerios, carrots, peas, broccoli. So detail is extremely important, as well as accuracy when completing a menu. As you can see in an example on your screen, when you record your items served, you're required to write the component description and then list the serving size. This is a menu record that could be improved to accurately reflect what is being served. Can you spend a minute and find the 6 things that could be updated to make this menu more accurate? The description hot cereal is not sufficient. There needs to be more detail to correctly identify what was actually served. For example, it could say hot Quaker still oatmeal. The egg needs more detail as well. Was it a large egg? It should read 1 whole large egg. The juice, again, what flavor was served? It should say something along the lines of juice for you, orange tangerine, 6.75 ounces. The graham cracker description should include how many crackers are in a serving. So as you can see, it just says that they were whole grain graham crackers and there was 1 serving, but it is not clear what that serving size is. Your peas and grapes are obviously listed under the wrong category. And then your bread needs to be identified as whole grain, and then also what is a serving size. So whole grain bread is 1.1 ounces. So I know it seems silly, but again, I think most of our like programmatic findings come in the sense that the point of service sheet is not completed in its entirety, and the menu is not an actual reflection of what was being served, nor does it have the accurate description or serving size. So please take time, make sure that you are doing that correctly. Making substitutions to the menu is extremely simple. You just mark out the item and write in what was actually served. Therefore, the menu can accurately reflect what was being served. A lot of times, like I mentioned, it can just be marked out and you write juice, grape. But again, that's not the serving size or the description. So I highly suggest it is a digital form that you go in and you just copy and paste and rearrange instead of marking out and writing out all the time. If you need help creating a digital menu, let me know. I am more than happy to help you do that. It's always easier to see and understand what was being served when it's legible, and typing is often the best route to do that with. So. When you're making substitutions, make sure that you're still following those meal pattern requirements, though. So you would think it would be extremely, I don't want to use the word common sense, but common sense to make substitutions. But you have to make sure, especially in, lunch or dinner with those 5 components, that if you're subbing an item, that it still meets the nutritional requirements and meets those meal patterns.
Jess, I don't hear you. I think we've still lost you. It looks like we've still lost you. You can see the screen, but it's now not full screen. It's got your slides to the side. Jess, do you need me to do anything? Do you need to text me or let me know what I can do to help? Looks like you're still having trouble. Do you want me to just go through the slides? Can you move the slides? I'm sorry if you're hearing me and you can hear something in the background. Unfortunately, my husband works from home now too, and so he's in the background. He's being very loud, so I apologize if you can hear him in the background. We'll just I know Jessica's still trying to figure it out. Just on this particular slide with serving meals, just, again, like I think we said earlier, staff that are trained in the procedure should be the ones that are actually uh, monitoring and taking care of the, is everybody, can, Anthony saying he doesn't hear anything. Oh, in my background. Okay, thanks. Okay. Jess, are you back? Okay. We'll keep going. So with the staff, making sure that the ones that are trained are actually doing the program. There shouldn't be any unauthorized people that are in the area. So don't let a bunch of kids come behind you and, kind of talk to you and bother you while you're serving, because technically that would be something that DOE would find as a finding. And again, making sure everybody's signed off on the training and that you have a civil rights form. And I'm sure one of the things that, of note is that we're going to have that civil rights quiz completed, one per site. You don't have to do one for everybody, but one per site, and send that back to us, because that's a requirement that we have to have, and we will need that in place before October 1st. Jess, are you back yet? Nope, still not talking. Okay, so we're on the medical accommodation form. So in the past, DOE would kind of let us say, okay, well, this child has a cheese allergy, they can't have milk products, and so we're not going to give them milk. They have become very, very, very particular in ensuring that we have the actual forms that have been signed by a doctor. Please note, these can't be signed by a mom or dad. They can't be signed by the school lunch lady, not even by a nurse. It is supposed to be signed by the doctor. If you look at the form, and it's kind of detailed, it offers, the child's information. It also then on the second page, that's kind of the most important page, because that shows you what items the doctor is saying that the child cannot have. And then it also says, here's recommendations on what you can provide. Now, there are differences between issues because of a disability, like let's say you have a serious allergy to milk products or peanuts. Peanuts, that's the big one. You have a major problem with peanuts. You get rashes, you get sick, your throat swells up, those kind of things. That's considered a disability, and those are mandated that we provide replacements. So if we're serving peanut butter and jellies that day, then technically we should have another alternative on hand for those kids that have that disability. So anytime you have these forms, we used to just tell you to keep a copy, but now the state is actually requiring us to keep a copy on file. So make sure that that form's with us. Still not there, Jess. Okay. Dietary substitutions for special dietary needs. This is where you would this is where you document what adjustments have been made for those individuals that do have those doctor's notes in response to their allergies or different things that they have to have for alternatives lists. So if you see, it's pretty detailed, the name of the kiddo, what substitution was made, what the size was, the date of the substitution, and then were any other items and components provided. So that's pretty detailed. You have to have that. So that's the form that we would need for you to keep track of that. Food safety is kind of a big problem for us. I know most of you don't have very good kitchen facilities. You don't have big ovens. You don't have large refrigeration, large freezers. So making sure that you're following food safety is going to be really important, especially if you're serving anything that has to be warm or anything that has to be chilled. So if you're cooking chicken patties because you're going to make a chicken patty sandwich for supper, then technically those chicken patties need to be above 135 degrees, and you actually have to take temperatures for that. If you look in the Dropbox folder, there's a temperature log, and that's what you use to document it. For those of you that are getting deliveries brought on site, when that food gets delivered on site, you need to test it for temperatures at that time to make sure that it was received at safe measures. And then you must continue to make sure that that food stays at safe temperatures throughout until you serve it. And you'll keep documenting it throughout. Making sure that all your staff understand those rules and that they're following those procedures. Make sure that you have your thermometers in your refrigerators and your freezers to make sure that the temperature in there is right. Especially, you know, making sure that if you're using fresh milk, the fresh milk must also be tested, and it has to be less than 41 degrees. And then just make sure you're keeping that documentation on site for DOE to look at if they come to check that. Next slide. Civil rights training is required annually. Training documents is what is discrimination. We have to collect ethnic and racial data each year. We have to track that. With ethnic and racial data, technically you cannot ask somebody what they are. So if you're like, I don't know what I should count you as, you can't say, what ethnicity are you, or what race are you? You do your best guesstimate, and you can either use your existing documentation from your kid tracks or vision system or whatever you're using, or you can do a visual, you can visually look at the kids and kind of take a best guess for that day. You have to have posters. There are 2 posters. There's the large, obnoxious green one, and if you do not have the large green one, you need to make sure Jessica knows that so that her or Joshua can make sure that you get those. Those are a requirement, and we have to use the ones that come from DOE and the ones that are green because they are the right size and they are the current ones. So, there we go. There's the 2 posters, and Justice for All. That's the main one, and it has to be, yeah, like she's pointing, has to be in a prominent public location. So if you put this on the back door of your kitchen, that doesn't work because no one can see it. So you either want it somewhere where, like, your parents, when they're coming into the building, they see it, or maybe it's on the outside of the door that you're serving. It has to be visual. And then building for the future is the other one that you have to also put up. That's the one that gives them information so that they can know that what a participating facility is, what eligibility is, and parents can ask more questions there. So those both need to be prominent. And then, so then what are civil rights? Go back one more. There you go. Rights of individuals to receive equal treatment. And so basically, these are rights that are guaranteed to all of us, and basically making sure that nobody is being treated unfairly. You know, as examples of what this can be is, let's say okay, here's the protected, you're going too fast. Back to protected classes. So let's say that you give, all the girls are served first, and you're like, and your reasoning for that is, well, girls should be fed first. That could technically be a discrimination, because why are the boys not being served? Why are the girls seem to be priority? Now, if you have like a specific reason or a specific way that you're serving, as long as you have a written policy and it is very clear and it has been approved as a policy that we can use, then you could do that. But any act of discrimination is neglect, intentional or unintentional. All of those things can be considered discrimination. And with discrimination, that could be a parent that recognizes something, that could be another staff person that comes in and has a problem with it. So those are things that can happen. And then here's some examples. Refusing a participant's enrollment based on disability. So let's say they have a disability to milk, and it's going to cost us double to buy soy milk because they're allergic to cow's milk. And so you can't refuse to provide that service to them because of that. Failure to provide reasonable accommodations to disabled individuals. So this, sometimes what this could be is you have to provide, and many of you probably have this within your club, like your membership form. Some of you should have it in Spanish because you have Spanish speaking families, and so those Spanish speaking families would need access to the materials. So you want to make sure that there's those kind of things. Serving meals at a time, place, or manner that is discriminatory. So, you know, if you are serving, I'm not really exactly sure what some of those would be, but Jessica, you probably have the details on that. But you know, doing it at a different time for different groups might be something that's considered as discriminatory. Selectively distributing applications. So if you only give your applications to this group of these families in particular, but you leave out these 10 families because they've been problems in the past, their kids have caused issues, they've been suspended. You can't do that. Everybody has to get the applications, and then providing the same eligibility for all, that's required. Racial ethnic data, we collect that annually. Again, that's kind of like where we go on and we look how many kids you had that day. We break it down between Hispanic and non-Hispanic, which right now are the only two ethnicities that we're required to track. And then racial breakdown. So we do that. We usually do that at either your first or your second site visit for the year. Unannounced reviews. Please note that unannounced reviews are required. You can receive an unannounced review at any time from DOE or from our staff. So you have to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. So if you have the power went out and so you're not going to be able to serve dinner that night, you need to make sure that you send immediately an email. And I would recommend sending it to Joshua, Jessica, and me. That way one of us gets it and can get that in the system, because technically if DOE is on their way to your club and you didn't let us know until 4 o'clock that you're not serving at 3 o'clock and they get there, you're going to be in trouble and we're going to get written up, and that could actually put your site and our program in jeopardy. Having a second set of eyes to look at the documentation each month for accuracy, making sure everything's signed. Those are some of the biggest problems we find during these reviews. Consistently keeping documentation organized and ensuring that your policies and procedures are being followed at all times. Those are things that are critical for these reviews. Your training documentation. So after this, you're all going to be required to submit a civil rights quiz, 1 per site. There is the training log, and you can see right next to that, there's the training documentation. It outlines what all should be discussed in your training. And then make sure, one thing that's really, really, really critical is make sure that they print their name clearly. A lot of times we used to just have them sign and we couldn't read some of it. So really make sure they print and sign. That's going to be pretty important. There's the site questionnaire that Jessica mentioned in the beginning. I sent out the new site questionnaire to everybody. I need those back ASAP so that we can get our 2021 application submitted for renewal. Make sure you print your program forms. Please note that like Jessica said in the beginning, we're still on the 2019-2020 program year. So everything that you did in February, everything you did in January, February, those are still the same forms. Those are still the same things that you're using. We switched over to the new grant year, October 1. And then again, making sure that we have your current updated times. I've gotten several emails from several of you with some updates. So please make sure we always have your current serving times. Even if you change it by 5 minutes one way or the other, we still need to make sure that's updated and that DOE is aware of it. COVID waivers, we know since March there have been a lot of issues going on, a lot of different things have been happening, and DOE actually applied for some COVID waivers from the federal government, and there's been some that have been approved and then they have expired now. Most of our COVID waivers expire August 30th, so now they've reapplied for a few of them. Some of the waiver of activity. So right now, when you do programming, when you do the CACFP program at your site, you're required as an after-school program to provide other after-school activities, which you all do. But because of some of you that were closed during COVID, and who knows if we might have to close some clubs again in the future, when you're closed, technically, if we apply for the waiver for your site, you could provide like the bagged snacks for families to pick up, a bagged dinner for people to pick up, but that's only pending approval, and as of right now, we don't have that approval. Another waiver that was extended was the monitoring requirements. I believe this one might have gotten approved already though, Jess, so we might want to update that. But apparently what was happening is, you're required to have in-person monitoring visits. And because of COVID, we don't want to spread our germs to you. And, lots of kiddos have lots of things that they bring into the clubs. And so we don't want to expose our staff to that either. So depending on everybody's safety and comfort level, those monitoring requirements can be done through desk reviews right now. We're still working on that and don't have it finalized yet, but I do think that's the one that has been implemented. So currently, that one on the side, that's a really important one, is that if you're serving kids during the day, like I know Northwest Indiana, there's a bunch of you on the phone. Right now you're serving breakfast and lunch to kids that are in your buildings for e-learning days. But unfortunately, DOE is not currently allowing you to get reimbursed for breakfast and lunch. during COVID right now, because if the school is classified as in session, whether that's in-person school or whether that's a virtual e-learning school, if it's school hours, we cannot serve meals to the kids during those times because technically the school is providing those. And it sounds like most of the schools are providing that. Most of them are having SAC pickups and things like that. But right now, you're not allowed to serve breakfast or lunch during any planned learning days for school, even if you are providing the e-learning location. I have a feeling there might be some waivers or some things that come into play with this, but it's a huge, ugly mess. So right now, you cannot start serving any meals or snacks until after the official end of the school day. So just kind of think of that when you're planning your snacks and suppers. Few reminders, again, follow the rules and requirements every day, every meal. If you're following the requirements and the step-by-step instructions, you should have no problems. Update any changes to us ASAP, and again, like I said a couple minutes ago, even if it's 5 minutes, make sure we have those changes. Train all your staff and volunteers, make sure that everybody, even if it's some far-fetched, it might happen, it might not, you're always better to train as many people as you can instead of leaving somebody out that has to help you that day. If you're feeding in multiple classrooms, which I know a lot of you are doing right now because of COVID, you need to have a daily count form for each room or area, and then you compile them prior to submitting it. I know it's a lot of paper and kind of a pain, but that's going to be the requirement right now, but it is allowed to serve in separate rooms. Just make sure that you have one form that you end up turning that has the total number, but you have a backup documentation for each individual room. Dropbox has the new year as well as this PowerPoint. Everything's going to be emailed out after Jessica's got everything finished. And we don't want to get it too confusing, so you'll get that soon, but don't forget these rules and requirements don't take place till October 1. And she's always all optimistic and positive, so make it a great year. That was my favorite part of her presentation. I love that. So Jessica's asking, do we have any questions? She can unmute people and we can ask some questions now. And I'll let.
Yeah, are we technically
I can hear somebody.
in CACFP now, or what are we in technically right now? That's my question.
Right now, you're on the 2019-2020 CACFP program year, so you're still finishing up last year. It's a weird thing. The program year is from October 1 until September 30th.
Hello?
Uh-oh, did we lose everybody? Hello?
Guys.
I'm here.
We're here.
Okay. We're here. Okay. I don't know where I was. So the new program year is 10/1 to 9/30. Some of you don't do summer, so it kind of feels weird that a lot of you keep thinking that maybe it's the new year starts with school year. It doesn't. CACFP runs from 10/1 to 9/30. So use the current 19/20 program year documents until October 1.
Okay.
Oh, so we're good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Cool.
Yeah, Lana.
Uh-huh.
Hey, so the civil rights quiz that we have to turn in all the time, is that civil rights quiz is not good for this summer, or do we have to do one each and every time we restart the program?
Each year when you do the new CACFP year, it's mandated to do it, and then in the summer it's required. But technically, they're two different programs, so so the one you do in summer is technically a whole different pot of money and a pot of programming, and CACFP is the other. So, but yeah, it's required annually.
Can me and Ashton and Jess, who's our new program coordinator, can we give you a call maybe sometime tomorrow or later today, or do a conference call with you? We might have some different things we may or may not be doing, as you probably heard, as far as our sites or whatever, in terms of serving food. Are you okay with that, Ashton? Oh, she's not on there. Anyway.
Yeah, just get a hold of us.
Are you free later today or tomorrow sometime? Just get a quick call to ask a couple questions.
Yeah, tomorrow is better.
Okay. What time?
I have something until noon, and then I'm open.
Okay. All right. I will get with Ashton and Jess, and we will just give you a call sometime afternoon, which I have asked you to shoot your email first, and then we can call. I just want to ask
Okay.
just a couple of questions. It might not be appropriate to ask them on here, but we want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Looks like Jessica's answering some questions that come in through the chat. So make sure you're looking at the chat to see. Let's
Who?
see. Hello? Anybody else have any more questions? Again, like somebody pointed out in the chat, things didn't really change too much, and it usually doesn't until there's a big nutrition change. We're still hoping for some changes to how they do the program over the next couple of years, but because of the current administration, I don't think anything really will change until there's a new administration in. Hand sanitizer does not count as washing hands. However, apparently there have been a couple health departments that have given some waivers, not the right word, but that's the word stuck in my head, have given some waivers to a couple of sites in the past. One, because of the huge number of kids that they were serving snack to, and two, the policy and procedure. So if you're somebody that really wants to use hand sanitizer and does not want to use washing their hands with soap and water, we would need to get approval from your health department saying that that's an approved an approved alternative to hand washing with soap and water for your particular facility. Yeah, granola bars, we can't explain to you why there's some differences between SFSP and CACFP. In summer, you guys are allowed to do some additional food that's yummy and some different things, but during the school year, those things are not allowed, and it's just the policies that have been implemented and approved by each department. And again, like I said, CACFP and SFSP, even though they're both run by DOE, they're separate departments, so the requirements are a little bit different. Jessica told somebody that yes, you can get shelf-stable milk even if you're not getting the grab-and-go commercial foods. Commercial foods can offer a bunch of opportunities for shelf-stable items. They just unfortunately don't have access to anything cold or frozen. They're a dry goods only or vendor, if that helps. Yeah, Jessica, we'll mail out the quiz and the training log documentation form to have your staff sign. We'll get those out to you with this recording. Okay. Some asking if we're going to be ordering food from like a GFS or is US Foods the only option? Right now, the way we're doing things is we have to go through our approved vendors. And right now, our approved vendors is US Food and Commercial Foods. And then there's a new Performance Foods we're ordering from. We just recently went through our procurement, or we're going through procurement right now. That means we have to get quotes from different organizations to prove what's the best option. And so once we get the procurement finished, which those bids are due to me by the end of August, we will make a decision by mid-September, and you'll know who our vendors are by hopefully by mid-September, maybe the third week in September. So right now, I guess we'd have to know why you would want to go through GFS or a separate vendor locally. But if there's a reason and you can explain it to us, we might be able to figure that out for you. Anthony, milk, like Jessica just said, milk can't be returned back to inventory. Now, if you have let's say you're buying the 8 ounce individual milks and you do get them in the share box, what I would recommend is you let kids take extras if they want an extra milk, or if you maybe you have a smart girls group later on in the evening, you could move that milk over to them and let them have it. If you end up with a bunch, unfortunately, my best opportunity would be to, one, just send it home with kids that may not have it at home, or B, donate it to, you know, a local daycare, a homeless shelter, somebody that can use it. Can we still do a share table with all the restrictions? So share tables that is going to be something that is up to you. You'll have to come up, if you decide not to use share tables, you need to make sure I know that, because I actually have to enter that into the DOE system that you are not allowing it. And you can put in there that, you know, due to COVID, you are, you know, not doing a share table anymore. Now, what you would have to do then is you would just take that, any inventory that shows up in your share box, you either have to throw it away or you put it back in inventory. So somebody could still touch it. But yeah, it's up to you. So if your school corporation discontinued it and you want to follow them, you can. I'm trying to see. Yeah, Erica, I don't have performance done yet. They're not approved yet. You can use them for summer still, but they're not approved for a school year quite yet. Any other, it looks like, I think we've gotten most. Jessica, is there any question I've missed? I'm looking through here. Okay, so anybody else have any last questions? Sorry, this got a little crazy. Jessica's definitely the one that knows how to use this. I don't. All right, well, I want to say on behalf of Jessica, Joshua, and me, thank you for all you're doing. I know it's complicated right now. You know, things are changing daily, not only through the federal government, state government, but also at your clubs. I wish you good luck. I know you've got a lot going on, and I hope you have the best year you can possibly have. If you do close for COVID, or if there are some issues that happen, please make sure to notify us so we can update DOE. It's really important that we let them know. They totally understand things can change day to day. So just as soon as possible, make sure to let us know. But outside of that, it looks like we are good. Thank you for all the happy birthdays. I appreciate it. Although, like I told people in the beginning, this one's the big 5-0, and I think I'm stopping. I don't think I'm going to have any more. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a super, super, super great day.
Bye, ladies. Have a good day.
Thank you.